Yes, guys, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Back at it again. Welcome to everybody to Kingdom of Kings, our second video. Basically, we had our first video launching of Kingdom of Kings, YouTube world premiere. To thank everybody that actually subscribed so far. So make sure you keep liking, subscribing, and sharing the video, because at the end of the day, YouTube is an algorithm. So the more you share it, the more you like it, the more people is going to be able to see the video, and the faster we can get people to actually understand, get the knowledge and the understanding that you're going to get with us, the faster we can actually turn things around and you can finally establish that kingdom and get out of here. So my name is the priest, of course, and I'd like to actually, without my apologies, before we get even started, all praise, Kal Halal Yahweh, Ba'ashim Mashiach Yahushai. All praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, that most people call God, which is only a title. His real name is Yahweh, and his son, Yahushai, which means he is deliverer, that the world knows as Jesus Christ. So for this video, of course, like, we're going to get a little bit more deeper into like the Bible study, the understanding. First video was just to present the channel to the world. So what we're going to do here, it's learn this Bible, which is our book. Learn about ourselves. Stop letting these people dictate what we should know, dictate who we are, and our history was like there all along, like right in plain sight. And like they say, like, if you want to hide something from a Negro, like, if you want to hide something from a Negro, you put it in the book, and there's truth to it. But at the end of the day, the reality that book is ours, and we used to actually, our forefathers are the one that actually wrote that book, shows you that actually at some point of time we used to read and write. We educated the whole planet, matter of fact. So those are small little things that actually what we call like stereotypes, but most people think it's like it's just out of the blue and it just happens for no reason. But the reality is, the Most High is the one that actually dictate the whole story. The Most High is the one that actually predicted, said that book tells you that the Most High, that's the reason why that book is different from any other book, because of the prophecies, right? There's no other book with pinpoint accuracy that's still happening up to this day. And it's about us. But that was basically the whole lie that's been going on for years and years and years and years. Started more or less like in the Renaissance, that they call it, the Dark Ages. Guess why they call it the Dark Ages? Like, some way, somehow, supposed to be super smart people of the world. There's 1,000 years that nobody knows what was going on in this 1,000 years. Well, this 1,000 years, that's exactly what happened. They did a little swisheroo. They switched everything. So whatever, like, they had, like, whatever story was there at first, like, meaning like the disciples, the people that was ruling Europe at that time, and all type of madness, man. Like, speaking of madness, King James, this is the 1611 edition. Like, some people actually ask me, like, if actually I only use the King James Bible. We don't do only King James. I don't do only King James. I do cross-reference. I check the source documents also. I understand Hebrew. I don't fully actually speak Hebrew, and I'm not like actually really super good at it yet, but I do know, I know what I'm actually seeing when I see it, the writing, whenever I'm seeing something in Hebrew, in Paleo Hebrew, and that's what you see in the logo as well. I can read it. I might don't know exactly what it means, what the word means, but I can tell you what is written there, right? And there's some of it that I already understand. So I do cross-reference. I go to the source, and then actually I get the understanding with the whatever means, Google and whatnot. So it's all about studying, right? Like 2 Timothy 2:15. We're actually going to start with that verse. What I'm going to do today, well, speaking of King James, like within that Renaissance, like King James like became a white man, just like Yahushai, he became white, and everything was whitewashed. So at the end of the day, all these people were black. We're going to go through it, but King James was a black man that he was ruling like Europe. He was actually the king of Scotland, Ireland, Great Britain, and there's a fourth place as well all together. And like, he was like just like me and you, and he was an Hebrew Israelite, and that's the reason why he actually authorized the translation, which is the King James version. But there's different version. The King James is not like 100% accurate. It's 95% accurate, because what they did is that like actually they translated it word for word. Like that was the King James like actually took the best scholar of that time, and they actually took from the Hebrew text and the Greek text, and they translated everything word for word with the right meaning. And that's the reason why it's very close from the original language, which is Hebrew or in Greek. Original, of course, was the Hebrew one. And that's the reason why it's like the closest to the understanding of the main source in English. And like every time you translate something in a different language, it like you have some of the meaning get lost, right? Lost in translation. So that's the same thing with the King James Bible, but it's the closest one, but doesn't mean that there's no flaws in it. Perfect example, if you go Act 12:4, there's the Easter there. Easter. And Easter is a pagan holiday. The real holiday is the Pesach, which is the Passover. But if you go to the Hebrew, if you go to the source, that's how actually you verify, because you just study, you cross-reference, you check in one source, check in the other source. And when you can find the origin of things, you can actually read the source documents and whatnot. You can tell exactly what was there at first. And for some reason, they put Easter in there because at the time that King James wrote the Bible as well, there was a lot of like influence with the church, the Catholic Church and whatnot. They were trying to enforce their pagan holidays, Christmas and all that madness. So that's the reason why some of it got mixed up with the tradition. But at the end of the day, that doesn't change the fact that the book itself, what's in it, it's the word of the Most High, and like it was at its original state. The only thing is that instead of putting Passover in Act 12:4, they put instead of putting Pesach, which is Passover in English, the Hebrew word is Pesach, they put Easter, which is not the same holiday at all. We don't chase. We don't have any bunnies in our holidays. We don't actually any bunnies like actually. With eggs, like bunnies supposed to actually have eggs, like but bunnies and eggs has to do together. Go figure. But on the real, we'll touch this as well, but that's not the point of the Zoom today. But that was the god of fertility, to just in a nutshell, which is Ishtar. So that's the pagan holidays. They actually mixed it up with the Bible. So that's the reason why they try to put it as close as possible as the same holiday that we celebrate, which is technically the Passover. So they celebrate what we call Easter, which has nothing to do. And yeah, so that's part of the lies. You actually officially been, what you call that? There was like that show on TV. You officially got punked. And that's basically what the church been doing to most of us. We've been punked, right? But I'm gonna share my screen with you today. So I'm gonna show you exactly what I use. That's the book itself, or any other Bible. You can have with the New, the Old Testament and whatnot. So me, that's the one I'm using. That's the one I have. Plus I also have like the smaller one right here, which is almost destroyed because I've been using it so much, taking notes and whatnot. But that's the regular one that you see in every hotel that you go, the standard like New Testament, but it's missing the Old Testament with it and the Apocrypha. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to show you what I use when I go online. It's really simple. If you don't have the hard copy, you can always go online nowadays. There's no excuses for you to actually study and figure out things once you get the right information. So I'm just going to show you the tools that I'm using, me, myself, personally, including the Bible itself. And you also have, my bad, that you can go online also, the Zondervan, dictionary, which is the Bible dictionary. You can also find it online, which gives you all the definitions of like what's in the Bible. Most of it is very accurate. There's things that are off, of course, so that's the reason why you cross-reference with other sources. But for the most part, it's a very, very accurate book. And when you actually figure it out, when you read it, you're going to know that basically, like, not only they know they were lying to us, but they know exactly that we are the children of God, that we are the 12 tribes. We're part of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? Because there's 12 tribes. That's a whole nation. The whole nation is the nation of Israel, but we have 12 different tribes. But yeah, so you can tell because the definition with the real meaning of the words, of like everything that you see in the Bible that they teach you somewhere when you go to church, well, the real definition, it's there. Like the scholars, they actually been studying that thing forever. And the sources, like, and if you match it with what's going on with us, history, archaeology, you do the math, and that's what it is. So when I go online personally, I'll share my screen with you. I use either like this one, Blue Letter Bible. I also use the King James Online, basically the same thing like the book, but the online version. And you can also use, there's this one also that I use, which is the Bible Gateway. There's many other sources as well. Some people use whatever they use as long as you have the Bible in it. And there's no verses missing, because nowadays that's a new trend. They're removing passages, they're moving like whole books from the Bible, including the Apocrypha, which was the first book that was removed from the Bible. Make sure you get a Bible with the Apocrypha, which is 14 books that was removed more or less in the year 275 years to be exact after the King James edition. So that means the King James edition is 1611, 275 years after that is like 1878, right? So 1875, 1886, 1886, what? 275 plus 1611 plus 275, yes, 1886. That's when they removed the Apocrypha. So for almost 2,000 years, we had those 14 books. And then the first, Martin Luther, to be exact, which is the father of the Protestant, which is the first denominations, the first denomination that you have today that rebelled against the Catholic Church, because they actually were twisting the word like they still do nowadays. But this guy, Martin Luther, which is basically was a monk at the end of the day, and he was a slave owner, right? So that was basically to keep us in check, the slave on the plantation. So there's things that he didn't agree with, the way the Vatican was actually twisting the words and whatnot, and give a different understanding of the Bible. So he had these 14 books removed. By what authority, nobody knows. At the end of the day, that was a slave master. That wasn't even his book. It doesn't have nothing to do with the story in it. But actually, to push his doctrine, he had to actually remove those 14 books because it didn't match whatever he was like actually teaching the slave, to keep them obedient. And that's how the Apocrypha got removed, which is 14 books. So make sure you get the Apocrypha. And whatever subject, whatever verses or anything, you always have to double check, cross-reference. You do the work, right? So speaking of verses, 2 Timothy 2, verse 15, right? So study to shew thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So basically, you have to dissect the truth. You have to figure it out. But in order to do that, you have to study, just like going to school. That's something you do by going in the scriptures, studying it, fact check everything, and the Most High will do the rest. If you actually prove yourself to be worthy, you'll get the understanding of it. So what I'm going to touch today, speaking of being worthy, why, and people are asking me all the time, how do I know this book is about us, right? How do I know we're the people of that book? First of all, because of the book itself, because I read it. And unless like you're super duper retarded, what they're trying to push, and they've been pushing in church, has nothing to do with that book. What they're pushing in church is religion. What's in that book? It's our story. And why I do know is because we're the only people that matches that book to the T, like to 100%. Like, like we don't know our history, like that fake history that they give us, like besides like we started in slavery, like we were swinging in trees, like in Africa and whatnot, whatever story that they actually been teaching you in school, or whatever school of thought you've been going through so far, the Big Bang Theory and all that madness, at the end of the day, that has nothing to do with what's in that book. However, everybody take their source, like their religion, whatever religion in the world, their source is the Bible, right? Nobody would know about God if that book wasn't there. So we're the one that taught the world about God. And then the whole world took bits and pieces and they made their own God and whatnot. That's their business. At the end of the day, we're the one that had to follow what was in that book, and we didn't, and we got punished for it. But everything's recorded in that book. So when it's time for us to wake up, we would figure out who we are, and the book would be addressed to the heirs to the throne, the rightful heirs to the throne, which is us, the 12 tribes of Israel, were the people of that book. And I say, when I say we, I will be like anybody that actually has been oppressed in the world, that's part of the slavery, that actually go into oppression, like the minority, first fired, last hired, and whatnot, that going through police brutality, low income job, like like redlining, can't nothing goes our way. And if you're actually going through these things, that was all prophesied to happen because we just didn't listen. Listen to what? To the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. So the first thing, well, me personally, how I started, like when I figured out, well, when I started like getting the understanding that that book was about us, the verse that really caught my attention was in Deuteronomy 28. Right, so we're going to go through it. But of course, not only that verse, but the one that actually caught me, that ignited something, like what you did, like whatever study I was doing before. I already knew there was a God. I already had the understanding of the Bible, Jesus Christ, and all the stuff that they've been teaching me when I was an altar boy at school as well, like catechism and whatnot, the classes that we had in school. And everything that I learned when I was actually younger, which was basically the main doctrine that is still pushing nowadays. But what actually got my attention when I started studying it on my own, it's Deuteronomy 28. Well, one of the verses in Deuteronomy 28. But in a nutshell, Deuteronomy 28, what it is, that chapter is basically God. Deuteronomy is one of the book of the Torah, by the way. Most people think the Torah is related to the fake Jewish, the fake SOS, like those that stole our identity. And at the end of the day, that can be farther from the truth, because the Torah itself, and this is like basic knowledge that the church, like you're supposed to know. Like if you've been to church like all your life, you're supposed to know what's the Torah. The Torah is basically the first 5 books of your Bible. That's it. That's all. So when Moses, like the Most High, gave the commandments to Moses on Mount Sinai, the first 5 books that he wrote, which is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So that's 5 books, which was the 5 books of the law that the Most High gave to Moses to give the children of Israel. So every Bible has it, unless you have a Bible only with the so-called New Testament. But every Bible starts with those 5 books. So that's what it is. It's the Torah, which is like the law. In Hebrew, it's like the Torah, which is basically law, the direction, which is the law, statute, and commandments that the Most High gave to Moses and the children of Israel when they got delivered out of Egypt. So most people, they have no clue what's the Torah. When they hear Torah, they think of those fake SOS Jews, which has nothing to do, by the way, with that book, because they practice Judaism. Yahushua didn't practice Judaism, Jesus, whatever. Judaism didn't practice that. That's a totally different religion. Once again, they take bits and pieces of our book and they make their own stuff, which is totally different. And they make you believe they're following what's in that book. They don't. So Deuteronomy 28, which is like basically Deuteronomy means the second word. So Deuta, which is like Deuteronomy, means the word that's the second time. Moses basically just repeating everything that actually that's in the first 4 books. Basically all the laws in Genesis, in Leviticus, in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, everything that the Most High told Moses or the whole congregation of Israel, the whole story, everything that happened during those first 4 books, including like the Exodus, like when they actually got out of Egypt. So Moses just repeating everything to the whole congregation. So that basically all Moses speaking, repeating everything that was in the first 4 books. So the same thing that you'll see in Deuteronomy 28, basically that's been explained also in Leviticus 26, which is the exact same thing. But in Deuteronomy 28, there's a little bit more detail, and there are some details that are not in Leviticus 26, but you can actually cross-reference and see the same things like in Leviticus 26. And there's things that actually in one, not in the other, and vice versa. But this chapter, we're going to start at verse 15. So the first 15 chapter, it's the blessing. So if we listen to what the Most High told us, the commandments that he gave us this day. So I'll read the first verse basically. And it shall come to pass. When you read in the Bible, it shall come to pass. that's actually a prophecy. That means it will happen. So the Most High is just telling you that's basically something that will happen. It will come to pass. So now you in the present. So in the future time, what you're about to read will be the past. So that will be a fact. It will happen. So it's a prophecy. Prophecy just means tell before it happens. Pro means before. Phacy, prophesying. So foretell, like you're foretelling something. So you tell it before it happens. That's what a prophecy means. So, and it shall come to pass if thou shalt hearken. Hearken means listen. Root word, it's here. You see the first four letters, Hear. So hearken diligently, because it's like in Old English, right? But it's the exact same thing. Once you actually get the understanding of every word, is the exact same English that you actually been speaking like every day, all day, which is like the bastardized version of it. It's already a bastard language, but the English that you're speaking nowadays is even more, it's even worse. But you'll get the hang of it because it's actually written in the proper English, basically. And it shall come to pass, so it's a prophecy, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God. So if you listen to the voice of your Lord thy God, and you'll see like they always use thy God, it's possessive. So that means it's your God. It's not the God of everybody. Like the church starts try to make you believe that you probably still think until today that basically the Most High God is the God of everybody. That's also a lie. So thy God, which is very possessive, it's yours. That means if I say your shoes, it's your shoes. If I say thy God, your God, that means it's yours and not to everybody. So to observe and to do all his commandments, which I commanded this day. So that's when they actually gave it to them. So when they received it, that was basically the contract. That the Lord thy God, again, will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. So that basically means if we do listen, we would be ruling the whole world. That's what we've been created for. We've been created to rule and teach the whole world. We're supposed to be above everybody. We're the only nation in the world throughout history. You can verify it for yourself. We can never be second. We can never be the third nation, the fourth, the fifth. We either have to be the ruler because we listen, or we have to be in subjection and the last if we don't listen. It's one or the other. We don't have in and between with us. So if we listen, we get a blessing. If we don't, we get a curse. As simple as that. So there you go. Let me just remove this. Right. Okay. So, and it shall come to pass, I'll read it again. If thou shalt hearken, if you listen diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, I mean, at the present time when they were doing it on Mount Sinai, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. So we're supposed to rule the earth. We're supposed to be on top if we listen. And the first 15 verse, I won't go through it all so you can do part of the work. So that's the whole point. And on chapter 15, everything after, so you see like you have verse number 1, and then you have 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 14 is the blessings. And everything after that, from 16 to 68, those are the curses. So there's so many curses that will happen to us if we don't listen. It's just out of this world. We won't go through them all, but we'll go to some of them, including the one that actually caught my attention. Like when I started getting the understanding that this book was speaking about us and only us and nobody else. So on verse 15, but it shall come to pass. Now it's telling you like it also will happen. So not only you will get the blessing, but it's also a prophecy that shall come to pass, because I know you won't listen actually, and actually you guys will have to get punished. You will have to get the curses also. So, but it shall come to pass if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments, and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So all the curses will be attached to us. And that's how you're going to recognize the real children of God. So you can read all of them, the blessing and the curses. But the one that I want to read, that I told you about, I'll read a few more after that, but I'll read you exactly the one that actually got my attention. Was Which one was it again? Hey, there you go. 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. So the yoke of iron upon thy neck, that's what made it. Like, actually, I also read the rest, but when I read this, we're the only people that had yoke of iron around our neck, like in slavery, right? So first of all, if you actually don't serve the Most High, He will send the enemies to us. So He's the one who did this to us. So it's not because like our enemies, like that nation that's been oppressing us forever, including those fake, the SOS nation, those fake people that actually took our identity and pretend to be us. So it's not because they're smart. It's just because the Most High said it will happen. So He's the one that made it happen. He sent them to us, right? So you shall serve thine enemies, because we didn't want to serve Him. So actually, we'll serve our enemies. And the reason why, well, basically, that's the thing. In 45 first, right here, we'll read all these ones, right? Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. So these curses, they're going to pursue us. So we can't get rid of them. So it's part of us. You can actually go on the moon. If you actually go like underwater, you can go live like in Alaska, in an igloo, anywhere you'll go. It's a curse that the Most High put on us that we can't get away from, because we didn't listen. Just like the blessing as well. If we listen, the blessing, we can go on the moon, on any water, anywhere. The blessings will follow us. And that's all she wrote. So that's what's up. And at the end of the day, which he commanded thee, and why this keeps popping up, right? And it shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So they will be upon us for a sign and a wonder forever. So throughout history, like no matter if we actually would be living like 1,000,000 years, which is not the case, of course, but if our history would be like 1,000,000 year long, every time we would be bad, this sign and these wonders will be attached to us, so people could recognize who we are, no matter where we at. If in the year 2020, year million, 2050, in the year 0, in the year 10, no matter what year, what time, the span. So these curses, they'll be attached to you. So that's basically how you're going to recognize the children of Israel. So that's the reason why you can't get away from them. And that's the reason why we couldn't get the reason why all these things happening to us. The only difference with that last captivity, like I told you in the last video, is that there's a one difference with that last captivity, is that we would forget who we are. Because in the previous captivity, we know who we were. So we actually were getting punished. We knew exactly why we were getting punished. We knew that's because we didn't listen to the Most High. We knew who we were and whatnot. So when I say the other captivities, I'm talking about Egypt, the major ones. We've been in captivity all over, but the major ones was like Egypt at first, and you also have the Babylonian, the Assyrian, the Persian Medes, the Greek, the Romans, and now where we at right now, which is the last one, which is in America, which is like the daughter of Babylon, which is the mystery Babylon. We'll cover that as well. So that's the reason why these people that claim the SOS, that claim to be the Jews today, they don't fit none of these blessings. Well, they fit the blessings because they make you believe that they're the ones. So they're technically supposed to have the blessings of the Most High. But for everything else, they don't fit it at all because they didn't go through the curses. And regardless, until the Most High comes back on earth for his second coming, part of the prophecies as well is that there should be no war, and they should be able to see Yahushua on earth if they were the real people of the Most High. Because technically they want to make you believe that stuff, which is total crap. But at the end of the day, they only got back into Israel with the Balfour Declaration. They're not supposed to be back in Israel with the Balfour Declaration. They're supposed to be back in Israel when the Most High comes back and bring us back to our land. So that means when the Most High comes back, when Yahushua comes back on earth, the second coming, we're supposed to be in slavery still. I'm seeing people claiming to be the real Jews, and they're already in Israel, and they're actually part of the tribes. Madness, total madness. So me, that's the verse that actually got me to get the understanding of it. And if you read it from A to Z, you'll see that exactly from word for word, it's exactly what we're going through right now. I'll read a few of them. So, moreover, we'll go back at 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness. So that means actually we didn't just didn't value what we had at first, right? And that's what happens. We didn't take it with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. The Most High gave us everything. Still didn't respect what he told us to do. And that was like, that's basically just the way we are, like as if you actually know, like if you read a real black person, like so-called black person, because we ain't black, we are Israelites at the end of the day, and our skin color ain't black, we're brown skinned people, all shades of brown. But anything, right? You can see, like, you have to understand that these people, they got delivered by the Most High from the Egyptian with all the plagues, like the Moses split the Red Sea, killed all the pharaohs and whatnot. And right after, they went and started worshiping other gods. And to them, that was like it's nothing. Only black people do that. Anything that we see, we can't even do it ourselves. Everything is like nothing to us. It's like, what you talking about? This ain't that. We're the only people like that. So just imagine, we've seen God doing all these miracles for us, and we're still like, the hell with that guy. Who do we think he is? So that's exactly what we did, and that's what we were getting punished still to this day. But the prophecy also say that we're going to get back to the Most High, and we're going to get back to our land, and our kingdom will last forever after that. Once we get back to him first, right? So because so we read that part. So that's the reason why we got part of the curses also. So our enemies. So that's the reason why we're serving our enemies, which is exactly what happened in the transatlantic slave trade. So the yoke of iron, I'm going to show you. That's Google. When you see the picture, you'll do the math, because we're the only nation that happened to. So there you go. So that's us. Here's the yoke of iron. That's the thing we had around our neck. So basically, like if the slave, when we actually, not only like it's actually very uncomfortable, but if you do get away from the master, you can't take that away. You can't take that from your neck. So you can't even sleep properly. So if you actually would go away, would run away and whatnot, you would be stuck with this thing. Just imagine trying to sleep with that thing around your neck. That's just insane. And that's part of the torture that they actually been doing to us. But that's what the yoke of iron is all about. We're the only people. That's the reason why all the pictures that you see, it's only us. You see, it's only Negroes. Reason why? Because that happened to us, right? And that's only one, and we fit all of them. So anybody that's claiming to be the children of Israel, not only you have to fit all of them, there's only one nation that fits it all. It's us, including the Native Americans as well, which was like their original color. It's exactly the same color like us. Different shades of brown. Don't get it twisted. Doesn't have to be like super brown like me or dark skin, light skin, and all that stuff. It has to be a shade of brown. That's all it is. And Native Americans, and what you call nowadays what used to be the Aztec, the Incas, all the first like people that was in America at first. It's all part of the Bible. We'll go through it as well. Those are part of the 12 tribes. And this is us. When I say us, that's what I'm talking about. And that's basically all of us. And you see, the only people with yoke of iron, it's us, and not to get it twisted, to mix us with the African that they actually claim us to be, but we're not like the Africans, like to give you an example, there's a difference between Michael Jordan and Dikembe Mutombo, if you know basketball. Dikembe Mutombo is a descendant of the Egyptian. Michael Jordan is one of the 12 tribes, is actually also a descendant of the 12 tribes of Israel. There's a big difference between both of us. It's like Chinese and Japanese. We look alike, but they're the Egyptians that got killed by the Most High when we got delivered. And we're Moses, the one that got saved and that received the commandments from the Most High. So you see, the only people that you see here, transatlantic slave trade, when they sent the enemy to us, that was us and the yoke of iron. So that's the reason why I started studying after that, and then you have it. So you have a bunch of books on the matter as well. They'll never teach you that in school because they still don't want you to know. You know how much money they're spending every year just to hide that fact. But as you can see, the only pictures you see, it's us, like people, that's our ancestors, right? They're the only one that's been through this with the yoke of iron, and that's exactly what it is. So that's only one of the curses. So if you can read it all, and you'll see that the people of that book, that's exactly us. And speaking of that, to match it up with the yoke of iron, if you read verse 68, been sent in ship like from the transatlantic slave trade. You also had like the people in Mexico as well, like that's been sent from the slave trade didn't happen just from Africa to the America, like most people think. It happened in both ways. Like they had the Mexican as well, that's in like what we call nowadays like Central America and whatnot. Like the today's Mexican, which was like also the Aztec, the Incas, that's where they were at. So those civilization and those early civilization of America, they're part of the 12 tribes as well, which is the Northern Kingdom. We'll touch that as well in the other videos and whatnot. So all these guys, they also went to slavery from Central America to Spain and Portugal and whatnot in 1492 when Christopher Columbus claimed to discover America. Like, you know, like that's what I want people to do. Like, you know, like if you use these people, their logic, I want you to go to anybody's place, like any house, like, you know, just a random house, just go like in any street in Montreal or any city or wherever you're at in the world, just go to any house, just get into the house, break into whatever place, like you actually like home invasion and whatnot, kill everybody in the house, and then claim that the house is yours and you discovered it. That's exactly what they claimed. That's exactly what they did when they saw everybody here, which basically are the Taínos nowadays that they use, which is also like not the exact, that's not exactly who they were, but that's how they used to call themselves at least. That's the Taínos, the Harawak, which is in Hebrew, which means like the people's language or something like that in Hebrew. I can't recall exactly. Don't take my word for it for that. But that was basically the name, the people that was in that land at that time, which is basically the 12th tribe, the Northern Kingdom that moved to the America. They were the first one here. Biblical proof as well to prove that as well. We will touch that in the other videos. But just for the sake of it today, when they arrived here, 97% of the population got killed. So they went from 100% to only 3% when Christopher Columbus came here. And Hernan Cortez did the same thing for the Mexican, and they got from Mexico to Spain and Portugal. They became slave there as well. The same thing, just like the transatlantic slave trade, but in the other way. The crisscross. It's the same thing. The same thing happened to all the tribes, depending like if you were already here or if you were actually in the west coast of Africa. And then you have it, and that's what happened. So that's basically something that we share in common. Reason why? Because we're the same people. We're the same exact people. We're descendant of the 12 tribes, and we have it right here in Deuteronomy 28:68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Like when you see Egypt, that's part of the understanding of the Bible. You go in the Bible itself, there's metaphors, right? There's dark sayings, there's things, there's mysteries in it. So you have to be able to decode it. And one of the things is like the language is using sometimes the Most High. First of all, we'll go precepts upon precepts, precepts upon precepts, line upon line, line upon line. We saw it in the first video. At the end of the day, that's the way you actually get understanding from the Bible, and that's the way the Most High taught us to read it. So if you go Job 11 and 6, right? And that he would show thee, but it's written shew, Old English, and that he would shew thee the secrets of wisdom, that they are double to that which is. Know therefore that God exacted of thee less than thine iniquity deserve. So anything that you read in the Bible, there's always the literal part of it, like, like plain and simple, plain upon table. So you just read it as it is. And there's the spiritual. There's the literally what you're actually reading, word for word. And there's the spiritual part of it, which is a deeper understanding for actually for those that have more wisdom, more understanding of it. And there's always a double meaning behind everything. So the word Egypt is one of the examples. It means the country. In Hebrew, that's the name of one of the sons of Ham, which is Matuzaraim, which means between a rock and a hard place, which is basically in a tight situation. Just like basically, it means slavery, basically. So that's what Egypt means. So most people just take it for the word Egypt. They think of the pyramids and whatnot, but the origin of the word is from one of the son of Cush, which is one of the son of Ham, and one of the son of Ham, including Cush and Matuzaraim, Put, and Canaan, the one that was cursed, one of the fourth one. But one of them, his name is Matuzaraim in Hebrew. And Matuzaraim in Hebrew means between a rock and a hard place, which is basically Egypt. That's the definition of it in Hebrew. So Egypt means also slavery. So when the Most High tells us, just to give you an example, we're going to go Exodus 20 and 2. Precept upon precept, line upon line, definitions actually in the Bible. You have to know where to find it, and you have to know how to read it. Exodus 20 and 2. You see, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So basically, you have the definition of Egypt right here. It's the house of bondage. Just to give you an example, another example. The answers are all there. You just have to actually know. That's how you have to read it. And that's what they don't teach us. But that's basically what it is. Or the Most High just actually keep you blinded because it doesn't want you to know. There's also that part. It is what it is. But you can go also Deuteronomy 5 and 6, just to give you a quick other example, just for you guys to get the picture on how to read that Bible and when we come to these conclusions. I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. So Egypt is the same thing, like saying bondage and slavery, right? So what happened to us in Egypt, right? That's the reason why actually you say that it's going to bring us back to Egypt again, even though after we got freed from Egypt, there's a prophecy as well that we're never supposed to go back to the literal Egypt, the land of Egypt with the pyramids itself. But what it's saying right here is that it's going to bring us back in bondage again. We're going to get back in slavery with ships. So that's the key right here. The key is that we're going to get back there in ships. But from Egypt to where Israel's at right now, which is like the east coast technically of Africa, if you want to claim that that's on the same continent, they actually got to that land walking. They split the Red Sea, they got into the wilderness and whatnot, and they didn't take any boat. There was no boat the first time. So that can't talk about the literal Egypt. So this one there's the spiritual sense of it. So that's how you get the understanding of it. If you don't get it yet, you'll get it by watching my videos and whatnot. You'll figure it out after that. But if you read everything in context, you'll see that's exactly what it's talking about. Because not only you go back to Egypt, but this time you'll go by ships. So who's the only nation that went in slavery in ships? Us and only us. Who's the only nation with yoke of iron? Only us. That's only 2 curses. And we only one fit in. So anything else, like any other nation that want to claim, oh, well, this happened to this nation, that nation that they're trying to do sometime, including the Holocaust. We'll cover that as well on other videos. But for now, just want to give you the understanding why we come to the conclusion that we are the people of that book without a shadow of a doubt. And I challenge anybody to actually say different and prove that it's not us. But I know you won't be able to do it. And that's about it. So, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, so into slavery again. If you replace Egypt into bondage or slavery, and the Lord shall bring thee into bondage, into slavery again with ships. So we're the only one that went into slavery with ships, but could be like anybody else during that time back in the days and whatnot, right? But by the way thereof I spake unto thee, so thou shalt see it no more again. So the exact same way I told you it would happen. So you'll go back into bondage, into Egypt again with ships, you should that thou shalt see it no more again. So that means you will not see your land anymore. You won't see that place where you're coming from anymore. And when you think of it, most of us probably like me, I'm born in Haiti and whatnot. Like you have Cubans, you have like the Native Americans, like all the guys like actually in America that was there first. You have the 12 tribes all over the place, right? But when we go on vacation and the places where we live at right now, where we've been brought like in slavery, like we go everywhere. Like we go visit everywhere, France, Italy, and whatnot. But most of us, none of us go back to that land, which is Israel. And that's exactly what it's saying right here. None of us will go back to that land, right? And that's exactly it. And the people that's living in that land right now, it's also prophesied that those people will be our enemies in that land in Luke 21:24. We'll go back at it in other videos as well. But just to give you the chapter and the verse, Luke 21:24 and many other verses as well. You have Micah 5:3. You also have Leviticus 26:32, my bad. And Ezekiel 7:24, and many other prophecies. Like before Yahushua comes back, we actually will be in slavery, and we will not be in our land, which is like Israel, Yasharallah in Hebrew. And that prophecy, that's exactly what it's saying right now. We will not see it no more again. So we won't see our homeland anymore once we go to that slavery in ship. And there you shall be sold. That's the other part as well. So actually, it's a loaded verse, that one. Like Deuteronomy 28:68 is a loaded verse. There's like a lot of meat on it. Not only slavery in ships, you won't see your motherland anymore, like where you're really coming from. And on top of that, you will be sold unto your enemies. So when we actually arrive there, so speaking of that, like like the stock market, if you actually do like if you know about trading and whatnot, and what they use to trade money, stock exchange, we're the first one actually that's been created with us. We're actually the first one that's been exchanged on the stock market. Let's say for like, what was it again? That's let's say like a Negro right here. Like they would give us a name: Negro 1, Negro 2, Negro 3, Negro 4. Like we had like whatever name they gave us when we arrived there. They actually strip us from our name, our language, and whatnot, and everything that we had. And they had us on the auction block. So we would go, they would bid. People would actually share. Master like Johnson right here. Negro sold to Master Johnson, Negro sold to Master Jordan, Negro sold to Master Smith, Negro sold to Master Jackson, and whatnot. So that was the first auction, and we were the first people in auction. We were the stock. We were the one that was getting sold. So that's how the economy, Wall Street, and whatnot. We're the one that started that whole thing. So we were like just merchandise to them. So we will be sold to our enemies, and it says our enemies. So the people who sold us, there was three parties, right? So there was the one who sold us. They want to make you believe that black sold black. No, there was a specific type of black people, because everybody was black at that time anyways. So there were different nations. There was a specific nation, which is the Egyptian, the descendant of the Egyptian, which is like the bloodline of Ham. They knew we're totally different until this day. Like one of the things, like those people, because they know who we are and they know who they are, most of them, if you think you're actually the same thing like these people, they'll tell you like you're not the same. So they'll call you like to just believe. If you ask like one of them that is honest about it, just tell them what is a kata. A kata is the same way like actually one of those crackers that actually calling us niggers and whatnot. Not to use the term, but like that's just a regular word. Negro is like from the Latin origin. Negro just means black. But like when they say it, they actually convert it and transformed it into something like really negative. And so they call us niggas, right? But at the end of the day, niggas, we call like the crackers calling us like that. When I say crackers, I'm talking about the rednecks, like the white people basically that are descendant of Esau. We'll touch that as well later on, not to change subject, but they're actually descendant of Esau. We're descendant of Jacob, the 12th tribe of Israel. And these crackers, we've been sold to them, and they knew exactly what they were selling. So there were not African or black people selling other African, right? That was like one nation, which is like the Hamites, the Hamitic nations, like which is like the descendants of Egypt, the Egyptians and whatnot, and also like Cush and whatnot, the Ethiopians and whatnot, selling the Israelites to the Europeans, which is the descendants of Esau. So that was it. That was three different parties as well, because you also had the Arabs, that was there. So all of them, Arabs and the today's Africans, so-called quote unquote, descendants of the Egyptians, like I was saying, and the Arabs, descendant of Ishmael, they're the one that sold us to the nowadays Europeans, descendants of Esau. So they knew exactly what they were getting in the west coast of Africa, and they knew exactly what they were selling. So they were selling their family. So just like me, there's some people might do it because some people like they're just twisted like that. But I don't think you would sell your mom, your daughter, your son into slavery to another nation, but to be tortured and killed and destroyed and raped and all the insanities that's been done to us and still happening to us up to this day. So you have the heart to do that. Well, that's good for you, but me, I would never do it. And that's basically it. So we've been sold to our enemies, and don't forget, the Most High is the one that made it happen. So these people, like fair and square, they can't. When you look at it, you see like these people. You look at those skinny ass, little tiny white people. They came and just abducted us from our own land, took us from home. They actually kept us in the boat for the whole trip and kept us in slavery for like the past 500 years. It has to be divine intervention for this to happen because I just can't figure it out. I can't even comprehend how that even possible. That is possible because the Most High said it, and He's the only one that can make that happen. That's because that was actually already prophesied, and then you have it. So that's all I can tell here at Kingdom of Kings, which is one of the many subjects we will touch as well. And we also have a bunch of color scriptures, like you actually been told that the Most High, that hippie Jesus, like actually that faggot, in for lack of better terms, is you can have that Jesus with blue eye, dog hair, and he looks like nothing but a but a but a faggot, man. So that's your God. It's okay. It's the devil. Right? Actually, that's your God. You can't keep that one. But the one that we have in Israel is totally different. You have a bunch of scripture telling you exactly like don't fall for the okie dokie, like nobody knows his color, and then nobody, so he walked the earth for like 33 years and nobody's seen him. Like that guy is like a magician, right? Even a magician can, as a magician, he has to actually reappear, and so it's not real, right? So that guy has been walking the earth for like 33 years. He's born on earth. Like, so he was a little baby, but nobody's seen him. Like even his mom, it doesn't look like he's see-through, like, right? That's what they want to make you believe, which is totally total madness. But the color description of the Most High in the Bible as well. We'll touch that on other videos. I just wanted to actually do that video for you to get the proper understanding, the reason why we're coming to that conclusion. And there's way more than that, because the whole book, you will come to that conclusion when you actually go through the whole book. But me, what got me, like the first time I really started on get the understanding that this book was only and solely speaking about us. That's when I read the Deuteronomy 28:48, and then after that, reading the whole thing, that's when the pieces of the puzzle started getting in place, and the story started to make sense, because it doesn't make sense with the people that are there right now. And if you look throughout history as well, if you actually think the story that they actually teach you in church, that they're trying to push on everybody, that madness, if you're actually trying to match that whatever's in the book, that's the reason why religion doesn't make sense. That's the reason why everybody's getting away from it. And I can actually understand why somebody would be like an atheist or wouldn't believe in any God whatsoever or any other religion, say all religions are crap. Because if you actually would get like the proper understanding of the story they're telling you in church, it's like total madness. Nothing makes sense, and it doesn't, that just doesn't add up. Like, the math ain't mathing, right? So, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. So when we actually were sold, not only we were on the auction block, but we were sold for what? For bondmen and bondwomen. What that means? For slave, right? And chattel slavery, not like indenture slavery, right? Indenture servitude. We actually were there for chattel slavery, which is the worst slavery in human history. We're the one that's actually been through it for 500 years and still go through it technically, because we're technically not free yet. That's just like a make-believe, all smoke and mirrors right now. And no man shall buy you. If you go to the Hebrew, that part, some people have a hard time understanding that part. And no man shall buy you, so no man will redeem you. So our Redeemer, it's the Most High. So no man will claim you back. So if we're really from Africa, to give you the proper understanding of it, now, right? Like after, like, no, especially like if you're from Haiti, the first place that actually abolished slavery. If that wasn't for 480, slavery might still be there, the same way like it was back then. And that's also prophesied as well. We'll touch that as well. It's also a prophecy that there would be like the Levitical priesthood will be the one that actually making this happen, which is like the revolt. Like we'll go through it, not to change subject, to make sure I stay on topic. And we're the first one that got slavery abolished and whatnot, like free ourselves and kill the oppressor. Not only one oppressor, we killed the British, the Spaniards, the French, and the SOS, like the fake Jews, like they're the one that was financing the whole thing. And there's a fifth party, I believe, in the whole thing. Well, actually, plus the one that sold us, so the African, the Arabs sold us to the Europeans right here. So we whooped their ass, right? So we destroyed them. So that's the reason why they hate us so much when it comes to Haiti, and that's part of the prophecy as well. And we'll actually touch that as well in other classes. That's a that's a whole nother class. And no man shall buy you, so that means no man will redeem us. So technically, since that happened, and if we were really from Africa, right? So you heard that 80, the first one that actually abolished slavery. If we're really your nation, the same people, when did they come and make war or wage war to the French, the English, and claim us back so we can get back home, or actually help us do anything, put us back on our feet, build businesses for us? They never did. Reason why? Because they know we're not the same. So you have to just think for a second. So all this about, just like I was reading at first, 2 Timothy 2:15, we have to study to show that self-approve. And basically that was like just a quick understanding on how we get to that conclusion that we are the children of the Most High. So those are curses that's going to be upon us, and that won't go away. And that's all you recognize, just like a sign, when you go, like you actually take your car, you go down the street, you're driving, you see a light or whatever it is, and you see like a big M, just to give you a proper example that everybody knows. You see a big M, so you know what it is. The big M is going to be McDonald's, right? What McDonald's known for food. So that's the sign, right? So that's how you recognize someplace. If you see like Esso, that's a gas station, that's for gas. Whatever you see, like you'll know what it is because there's a sign. So those are the signs that's going to be attached to the people of the Most High forever. So the curses and the blessings, and these SOS, those supposed to be Jews that actually claiming our identity, but the only thing that they did is actually just identity theft, which is a crime. They should go to jail. They should, by their own law, they should be in jail right now, because that's basically what they did. And that's the worst identity, like that's the worst identity theft in the human history. And that's the one that we are living. That's what we're going through as a people. But all this was prophesied. It's not because they're smart. They actually don't have nothing to do with it. They ain't smart enough to get it done, just like we ain't smart enough to actually not get punished by the Most High. We thought we knew it all, and actually by not listening, look at us now. And that's exactly what's going to happen to us, because they think they know it all. Some of them, they don't believe in the Most High. They think it's a joke. Well, you're in for a big surprise, right? So that's what it is for this video. And don't believe me, like I actually always tell you, as usual, believe yourself. I might be lying, or I might be totally wrong, and I might don't know what I'm saying. I might be totally off the track. But all this can be fact checked. That was just one video, few verses that made me get the understanding. And later on, with the other studies and everything else that we're going to touch with the history, like the captivity, archaeology, the thing that's been found, like actually all over America, Hebrew, like how did the Hebrew language get into here, like with the Incas, the Aztec, the Mayans, and whatnot. They had the same customs like us. Who taught them those customs? Like the first people that was here in America, unless they are also part of the 12 tribes, and that's also part of the prophecies as well. So all this is actually just to get the understanding. be in the know, in the truth. There's a whole lot of us actually getting this understanding right now. That's why they're trying to suppress it. So before it's too late, before it's all said and done, make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the video. The more you actually share it, the more you actually like it, the algorithm is going to make it go bananas so people can get these videos, can get the understanding, and we can get out of here. We can actually get those 144,000 elect to be sealed, and we can kiss the game goodbye and rule the world forever, because that's basically the prophecy that's supposed to be the end time prophecy, and that's that kingdom in Daniel 2:44. So with that said and done, all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. Keep studying. I'm going to be coming up with other videos and whatnot. And if you guys have any requests, once again, anything that you want me to do, breakdowns, just send it to me. And I didn't forget you, my G, Ezekiel. And you told me about that video. Like, I already got somebody who told me to do a video on like the marriage and whatnot. I won't have time to do it because, you know, I have other things that I do as well. But I'll make sure that's getting done. I just wanted to make sure I do that video first. To know the reason why, like, that's just basically just the surface, man. That's just the surface. It's not even the surface. It's not even there yet. But just with this alone, without a shadow of a doubt, we are children of the Most High God, Yahweh, and nobody else fit these prophecies, these blessings, and these curses. Keep studying. Keep the commandments, because that's basically what we have to do. That's the reason why we're in captivity right now, because we didn't listen to the commandments. So don't believe the hype. Don't listen to those pastors that's telling you like the law is done away with. You don't have to keep the commandments and whatnot. That's a total lie. It's the opposite. That's exactly the reason why we're still going through what we're going through right now. As long as we actually keep going against the commandments, keep not keeping the covenant, not keeping the word, the law, statutes, and everything that's been given to Moses on Mount Sinai will keep getting cursed. So if you want the blessing, just do the straight opposite. So start listening to the law, statute, and commandments. But in order to do that, we have to know what they are. So we'll touch and we'll figure out all this. Keep following us. Like, share, and subscribe. Kwam Yasharallah, which means rise Israel. Kwam means rise. Yasharallah is the name of Israel, which means prince with power with God, because that's what we are. We're the prince of power with God. We'll touch that as well, exactly where that name's coming from our forefather Jacob. His name got changed to Israel. In Hebrew is Yasharallah, which is prince of power, because that's what we are, prince and princesses of Zion, and meant to be kings, right? And that's basically it. So Kwame Asharala, see you guys in the next video, and that's what's up. All right, guys.